trench-coated operative attempts to defuse a bomb in a public building in New York when an armed assailant attacks him. Despite sustaining severe burns, he nearly succeeds in disarming the device. The attacker, eyeing his suitcase, ultimately chooses to walk away. Later, the operative awakens in a hospital, his face and arms wrapped in bandages. He is an agent working for an organization dedicated to stopping a notorious terrorist known as the Fizzle Bomber. His superiors inform him that he has one final mission before retirement. The recent attack was merely a prelude. The Fizzle Bomber's true plan is to devastate New York, leveling 10 city blocks. However, the bomber keeps altering the timing, making him difficult to track. Meanwhile, his doctor declares him physically healed, though he will look and sound different due to his injuries. Alongside his transformation, he is diagnosed with early-stage psychosis and depression. Once fully recovered, he is sent on his final mission. The scene shifts to him working as a bartender on November 6, 1970. A man enters and orders a whiskey. As they converse, the man reveals that he writes confession stories under the pen name The Unmarried Mother. The bartender responds that he is familiar with his work. Curious, the bartender remarks on his deep understanding of the feminine mind and asks how he acquired it, whether he has sisters or is married. The man replies that the bartender wouldn't believe him if he told him. He then wagers a full bottle that his story will be the best the bartender has ever heard. Intrigued, the bartender agrees, and the man begins at the very beginning. He reveals something shocking. He was once a little girl. The bartender is taken aback as the man launches into his story. September 13th, 1945. As an infant, he was abandoned on the doorstep of an orphanage, left with no knowledge of his origins. The doctor examines her and confirms she is healthy. She is given the name Jane. Rarely falling ill, she never needed to visit a hospital, yet she constantly wondered why her parents had abandoned her. Struggling with a sense of difference, she found sex confusing. Determined to give her future child the stability she never had, she vowed that they would have both a mother and a father. She trained herself to fight, proving stronger than any other child, even the boys. Academically, she excelled, always ranking at the top of her class. As she grew older, Jane realized she would never marry, just as she had never been adopted. She avoided mirrors and kept no photographs of herself. One day, a man named Mr. Robertson arrived at the orphanage, claiming to work for an organization that trains young women for government service. He offered her a chance to join Space Corp, a prestigious program with a promising future. The suits determined that sending men into space for months without an outlet for tension was unsustainable, so they sought out virgins to train from scratch. Jane's interview took place before a panel of men who ensured she did not become pregnant during enlistment. The recruits were expected to be married by the end of their service. Her training began, and as part of the process, she was given contact lenses. The training involved rigorous endurance tests to ensure the recruits were fit for space travel. Over the course of several months, they were evaluated on every possible factor. During this period, Jane got into a fight with another girl. Following a thorough examination, the organization's doctor informed her that this incident would disqualify her from the program. Soon after, Mr. Robertson visited her, assuring her that he would appeal to the board in an attempt to have her reinstated. She begins working as a mother's helper to support herself. During this time, she discovers confession stories and becomes fascinated by them. She spends her days working and her nights attending school. One day, she accidentally bumps into a man, wealthy, handsome, and full of charm. He promises to take care of her, and she finds herself drawn to him. Meanwhile, in the present day, a news broadcast shows police mobilizing in preparation for a large-scale attack orchestrated by the Fizzle Bomber. He continues the story. She fell deeply in love with him. One night, he asked her to wait for him and stepped away, but he never returned. Heartbroken, she moved on with her life until Mr. Robertson reappeared. This time, he revealed the truth. His organization's main objective was never space travel. Space Corp was merely a front, a recruitment agency designed to enlist individuals with no family, no past, and no future. But she became pregnant by the mysterious man and never saw Robertson again. When she went into labor, the doctor informed her that she had given birth to a healthy baby girl. However, during the procedure, the doctor also revealed something shocking. Her internal anatomy was different from most. She had 2 complete sets of reproductive organs, both male and female. While her female organs had developed enough to carry a child, excessive bleeding during childbirth forced the doctors to remove her ovaries and uterus. Further surgeries would be necessary, but the doctor informed her that she would now transition into a man. Accepting this fate, She named her baby Jane, knowing she would have to change her own name soon. 2 weeks later, her child was kidnapped. Despite desperate efforts, she never found the baby. 11 months and 3 major operations later, she had fully transitioned into a man. In the present day, he finishes his story, telling the bartender that while doctors assured him he is now a fully fertile man, he is no longer a woman and has no idea how to be a man. He continues the story. Determined to start over, he attempts to re-enlist in Space Corporation, this time as an astronaut, but is deemed unfit for training. Adapting to his new reality, he changes his name and moves to New York, where he takes a job as a fry cook. Seeking a new path, he buys a typewriter and works as a public stenographer. He then discovers confession magazines, studies them obsessively, and eventually creates his pen name, The Unmarried Mother. That's how he understands the feminine mind, by living the one story he never sold. He asks if he's earned the bottle, and the bartender hands it over with a nod, saying, "Not bad." Then the bartender leans in and asks, "What if I could put the man who ruined your life right in front of you and guarantee you'd get away with killing him?" Without hesitation, he responds, "I'd kill him in a heartbeat." The bartender claims to know the man's whereabouts and reveals a name, Beth Featheridge, the caretaker who once looked after Jane at the orphanage. He then points out that John had shared his former name, Jane, but never mentioned his current one, yet the bartender already knows it. John demands to know the man's location, but the bartender sets a condition. Before revealing it, he requires John to do something for him. In return, he will hand over the man, leaving John free to decide his fate. Once John completes the task, he will have the chance to try the bartender's job, and if he doesn't like it, he is free to walk away. Curious, he asks what the job entails, but the bartender deflects, saying that Robertson can explain it better. The bartender then takes out his case, the same one seen at the beginning, and reveals that it is a time machine. Activating it, he transports John to the past, arriving on April 3rd, 1963. He explains that Robertson works for the Temporal Bureau and is currently stationed in 1985. He is an agent tasked with preventing crimes before they happen. Curious, John asks about the limits of time travel. The bartender explains that they can travel up to 53 years in either direction from the 0 point, the moment time travel was invented in 1981. Determined to confront the man who ruined his life, John goes to the exact spot where Jane once met him, ready to kill him. However, instead of finding his target, he unexpectedly bumps into Jane. As they interact, their conversation unfolds exactly as it did when Jane first met the mysterious man. It turns out John was the mysterious man all along. The bartender watches from a distance as history repeats itself. Leaving John behind, he travels to 1967 to stop the Fizzle bomber. Upon arrival, he spots someone suspicious and opens fire. A brutal fight ensues, but the bomber gains the upper hand and escapes. Moments later, the bartender hears distant gunshots. Rushing toward the sound, he arrives just in time to witness a man being burned alive, the same man from the opening of the movie. Realizing that the burning man is himself, the bartender hands him the case and walks away. The burning man then uses it to travel to 1992. Meanwhile, the bartender jumps to 1964. Elsewhere, John and Jane continue their conversation over coffee. Robertson visits the bartender, confronting him about making an illegal time jump, a serious offense with potentially severe consequences, including the onset of psychosis and dementia. The bartender, fully aware of the risks, accepts whatever punishment awaits him. Robertson says that while the constraints of the Bureau are important, he has always believed they could accomplish much more without them. He tells the bartender that he is a gift to the world, created through a predestination paradox. It is then revealed that Jane, John, the mysterious man, and the bartender are all the same person. He impregnated himself, ensuring his own birth, thus becoming his own father, mother, and son. His face and voice changed due to the burns he suffered at the start of the movie. Jane and John kiss, unknowingly continuing the cycle. The bartender was the one who kidnapped the baby, took her to 1945, and left her at the orphanage, ensuring the loop remained unbroken. Afterward, he travels back to 1963, the day the mysterious man left Jane. As John follows the same path, he sees the bartender and tells Jane he'll be back in a moment, unknowingly stepping into his fate. John insists that he won't leave Jane, but the bartender tells him that he already knows who he is and who Jane is. Now, he must understand who the bartender is. He assures John that the path he is on will inevitably lead him to his destination. They travel to the Bureau, where Robertson informs the bartender that once he reaches his final destination, his time machine will automatically decommission, marking the end of his journey. He is set to retire in New York, near the date of the impending blast. Traveling to 1975, he decommissions his time machine, but an error message appears, indicating a failure. Checking his file, he finds a message from Robertson instructing him to trace the timer purchased to track down the Fizzle bomber. Meanwhile, John officially becomes an agent of the Bureau, stepping into his new role. The bartender, however, grows increasingly obsessed with finding the bomber. Unable to let go of the hunt, he tracks the Fizzle bomber to a laundromat, only to discover that the bomber is an older version of himself. The bomber claims that his actions, though extreme, ultimately save more lives than they take. He presents newspaper clippings from alternate futures that never came to pass, proving his point. He reveals that he prevented a tanker explosion, saving 350 people. In 1991, he stopped a bombing that would have claimed 1,861 lives. In 1968, he destroyed a building where terrorists had planned to kill 3,027 people. The bartender argues that the bomber's next attack will kill 10,000 people, but the bomber insists that when the dust settles, he will understand the truth. The bartender defiantly states that he will never become the Fizzle bomber. In response, the bomber poses a chilling question: whether he reported the time machine's failure to decommission to the Bureau. He implies that Robertson knew everything all along and intentionally left the time machine active, ensuring the cycle would continue. The bomber reveals that Robertson orchestrated everything, setting the dominoes in place while they merely watch them fall. He warns the bartender that if he pulls the trigger, he will inevitably become the Fizzle bomber. That's how it happens, how it has always happened. The only way to break the cycle, the bomber insists, is to spare his life. The bartender recalls his own words to John. "What if I put the man who ruined your life in front of you? Would you kill him?" He raises his gun and shoots the Fizzle bomber, ending his life. As the body falls, the bartender is left standing alone, staring at his still functional, uncommissioned time machine. The weight of his fate settles in. Despite all his efforts, he is destined to become the very thing he sought to stop. The cycle remains unbroken. Please like and subscribe the channel for more videos like these.